right, patricide, planet-sized WMDs, and the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy. Welcome to Smash Movie Geeks, Star Wars Episode 7. Ah, yes. It's time to talk a little Star Wars. And this is a very special broadcast. We have an all-star cast of folks to talk some Star Wars, and it's a special show. We're going to throw it into a bunch of different feeds around the Signals Media universe, I think, and all that kind of stuff. So let's just join in. Let's introduce these people. First of all, from Torin Think Tank, from I Remembered It Better, A Case of the Mondays and More, it's Jules Scott. Hi, Jules.
Hey, we're here. Movie time. It's movie time. Awesome.
It is movie time.
This music is too groovy.
And it's too loud, too. That's right. That's all right. And also from Stormcast, The Starting Zone, Super Heroic, and more from the Spazbot Studios, it's Mick Montgomery. Hello, Mick.
Howdy, Pat. How are you, everybody?
Yeah.
So good to sit down and talk about this movie that we're going to talk about. I have not talked about this movie at all with anyone.
No, never.
Since I've seen it. Never. I've been holding it all inside for tonight.
That has to hurt.
Yeah.
It does. It's painful. It's excruciating, actually.
I'm sure that's absolutely true, too. And our resident scruffy-looking nerf herder. I can't say that. I'm sorry. He put it in the notes himself. It's Brad Archer, otherwise known as Sharku.
You gave me away!
I know.
You can't say that I wrote the end of myself that I wanted to be referred to as a scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Because if I would have wrote it, I would have made sure that I could say it. But
and then I could have looked at you and said, who you calling scruffy-looking?
Oh.
Anyway.
And then you'd say, you love me, and I would say, I know.
I
right?
know. Yeah, but you'd say it.
It's the other way around.
No, I'd say I love you, and you'd go, I know.
I know. I know.
Yeah, I wanted to share with everyone. I came prepared today. I wore my lucky shirt.
I wore my X-Wing shirt.
Show off my Imperial colors.
Totally
For those on the podcast, he's got a Stormtrooper shirt on that says, I had friends on that Death Star.
Yeah.
I did. I had friends on that Death Star.
Yep. And we were talking about Clerks beforehand, how they kind of went in about how, all the stormtroopers and like the Union, like the electricians, they were on that Death Star, man.
Just doing their jobs,
and Mick
man.
has a Wookiee.
Just trying to feed their families.
I don't know. Jules, do you have any toys or shirts and or other things? Star Wars?
I feel stupidly lame, so I decided to wear my Mass Effect sweatshirt. At least I was in space.
There you go. I'll take it.
That's like being in. That's like being in Puerto Rico and saying I'm in the United States. That's
it's technicality.
Wow.
But I do love Star Wars. I just moved though, so I can't find anything yet.
Oh,
so.
you're still yeah. That's true.
That's
that
okay.
True.
Well, we are all gathered here tonight for this very special episode, like I kind of said at the top, poorly, to discuss the long-awaited Star Wars sequel. Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, number one, what? And number two, why are you listening to this or watching this or whatever you're doing with this? Because we are going to be talking all about The Force Awakens and spoilers and plot lines and characters and what we think and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to hear about it, then shut this thing off right now. No, turn it off. Right now. So now this is the first Star Wars film produced by Disney after they picked up Star Wars for $4 billion from George Lucas, and they've made like most of it back now, I'm guessing.
I think they might have made all of it back. At least in the time they picked it up. Just in the merch that sold for the movie before the movie even opened. Like
Right.
Which was insane.
Sure.
Like people buying BB-8s like crazy and no one even knew what BB-8 was.
No one even knew what it was. Yeah, exactly. And
And now it's finally released in China, right? So now that's going to be a thing.
Yeah,
we're going to start seeing the money from there. So they pretty much made most of their money back, if not all.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
But for those guys that don't know what Star Wars is about and are listening to us, Brad, why don't you tell us, give us the synopsis of
Sure.
this little story.
So, 30 years after the defeat of the Galactic Empire, the galaxy faces a new threat from the evil Kylo Ren and the First Order. When a defector named Finn crash lands on a desert planet, he meets Rey, a tough scavenger whose droid contains a top-secret map. Together, the young duo joins forces with Han Solo to make sure the Resistance receives the intelligence concerning the whereabouts of Luke Skywalker, the last of the Jedi Knights.
Freaky!
There you go.
So...
That's it. Now you don't even have to go see it if you got this far.
You're done. You could just wait for 8 or wait for Rebel 1 or whatever.
Nothing else happens.
So let's kind of go around the room and just say what we felt about the film overall. You really like it, you really hate it, you really kind of who knows. Jules, let's start with you.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I first went to go see it, it was actually opening weekend on Saturday. And I think I experienced what most of everybody else did, is you're so darn excited that you're watching a Star Wars movie that you didn't really catch a whole lot of stuff in the beginning, because it was like, oh my God, Star Wars. Oh my God, I'm really watching Star Wars. And so I was just having a blast just seeing all of these characters, and then the little inside jokes, like the little things that would come up there where you're just like, oh, that's so cool. Like, that's so cool. So when I got done, I was like, now that's how you do a Star Wars movie. You know, after seeing the prequels last time being in theaters, I was like, okay, we're good. And then I took a couple days, probably about a week, and then I went to see it again on the on New Year's Day. And it was so much better the second time, because I got rid of all the jitters of like, is this going to be good? Am I going to hate this? Like that kind of thing. So my overall synopsis is that there were a lot of things that I was kind of scratching my head at the end and saying, what? Like we missed a couple things here and there, but I loved it.
Okay. All right. Next up, let's swing it over to Mick. What did you think about this little independent film?
Yeah, it was made on a shoestring budget. This one, boy, it's got all kinds of indie darlings galore. Steve Carell was in it, and I think Peter Dinklage, and they were getting married in a Winnebago. No, I think here was the response I had to the film. The best way that I can describe my feelings about it was my response right after I saw it for the first time on opening night on Thursday night. Got out of the theater with the friends that I went to go see it. We went to see it at 10:30 p.m. on a school night, Thursday night, which meant we had to go to work the next day. And so it's around 12:30 when we get out of the theater. We walk out to the lobby. We all look at each other and we say, buy tickets, go right now? Yeah, let's go buy tickets and go see it again right now. So we enjoyed it so much, we were going to go see it right then. Like no thoughts, no hesitation. But then we turned to the board to see the next showtime. And every show from 12:30 to 5 in the morning was sold out.
Wow.
So there's no way we were going to get those tickets. So, I enjoyed it. What I've described to my friends in discussion since then has been I like to talk about how the movie made me feel versus kind of looking at it from like intellectually, because if you start to do that, there's big problems with the plot. But if you talk about how you feel, like what did it make you feel to watch the movie? And I felt exhilarated. I felt excited and happy, and it was a lot of fun. And it was this big space adventure, and something that I think no one's really done. I'll be honest, I don't think anyone's done really well since Star Wars, closed the curtains on Return of the Jedi. I mean, this is probably the most fun space adventure film that I've seen. And I think that J.J. Abrams did a great job of capturing the magic and getting Star Wars back on track again. I
would say that you are not wrong on that one. And I think that's just hearing a lot of people say similar things about that. I mean, just that 1, 2, and 3 were really off for whatever reason for them. And so since Jedi, this is a pretty dang good movie. Brad, let's go to you, bud. What did you think about this movie overall?
I thought it was terrible. It's one of the worst movies I've seen. I couldn't even hold it for the 10 seconds I tried. It was a great movie. I mean, just especially as a Star Wars fan, I think is the so much beautiful nostalgia, so many. It really did. I guess for me, it brought that whatever feeling I got when I was a kid and watched it the first time, because I grew up on these movies. I mean, they had all come out. I was born in '84 and Jedi was '83, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they'd all come out before I was born, but I watched them on VHS at my friend's house as I was growing up, and just fell in love with them. And there was that just excitement and humor, and the right kind of humor, not just a terribly silly accent from a cartoon,
Yeah.
If anyone knows who I'm talking about. But it was.
Wait, hold on a sec. Let me think about this for a second. Oh yeah, Jar Jar.
Misa talking about everyone's favorite.
You said the J word, and it wasn't Jedi.
No, that wasn't Jedi.
Wrong J word,
right,
sir.
Right.
That's gonna have to get edited out of this if we want to get any views.
Mm-hmm.
Outside. But anyway, yeah. I mean, that's it. It's just, it's so great. And like, I agree with Mick. It's not a perfect film. Some people have even gone as far as talking about Oscar buzz. I don't think so.
Wait, really?
I mean,
yeah, there's been some discussions about some of the performances deserve some stuff. Yeah.
And I mean, I think Disney did a great job. I think Abrams did a great job. I think they made exactly, and I mean, I know Lucas said something that I think he was trying to be kind of sideways with it, but he said it's the movie that the fans wanted to see. But he was right.
Right.
He was absolutely right. And this is the movie the sequel that we've been waiting for, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the sequel we've been looking for. There it is. I'm doing the Jedi mind trick. But
right.
Yeah, that's it. I seriously could talk about it forever, and I want to wait till we get to some good discussion.
Well,
but yes.
and maybe we should talk a little bit about fan service and about kind of the nods to the fans that you guys noticed and liked, and the ones that stood out for you. And Jules, you were kind of talking about that before. What were some of the things that you saw that were really cool and really kind of fan servicey types of things?
When the Millennium Falcon was revealed, there was applause in the theater. People got so excited because, we're going to go with the garbage, and they turn and there's the Millennium Falcon and everyone's like, it's just this cool moment of excitement. But for me, one of my favorite moments was when it was Finn and Chewie, trying to patch up Chewie and his injury, and he sits down at the game table inside the Millennium Falcon, and the monster chest comes up. It's the exact same point that it was at when Luke and Han were sitting there in Star Wars Episode 4.
Right.
And I was just
weird, right?
It was so cool. It was such a throwback to everything, and I was just like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" This little things that you get that you're just like, that was so nice of Abrams to think about that stuff. I mean, I absolutely completely missed it when Finn was pulling stuff out of the bag and he pulled out the little sphere that Luke was using as his training practice for the lightsaber.
Training. You stole mine, Jules.
Yeah.
That was the one I got. No, it's okay. That was the one I got. And I poked my girlfriend. I was like, oh!
I totally missed it the first time.
Yeah.
I saw it, and the other thing, there's some of the conversations were also pretty cool, like between Rey and Han, when Rey was like talking about the Millennium Falcon and was saying, "Oh, this did the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs," and he goes, 12!
Yeah.
Just little stuff like that.
That was
like,
the best.
Oh yes, please. Yep. Mick, how about you, man?
I mean, I think we went through a lot of the fan service stuff. I got to be honest, I got a little sad when they showed R2-D2 for the first time. It was like depressed, sad R2-D2 in the corner, and I was like, "Oh no, R2's so sad." That was kind of one of those moments too. I think another big fan service moment, because you guys brought up some of the best Easter eggy ones outside of the Millennium Falcon. But another, I think, one for me was speaking of droids, was when at Maz Kanata's little fortress when the Resistance troop transport came down and Leia got out with C-3PO and we saw C-3PO for the first time. And that was another kind of geek out moment for me in terms of fan service. And I don't think that we could overlook the first time we even see Han and the walking carpet when that ship is pulled into their freighter for the first time and they come on board the Millennium Falcon. That too was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was like a heart flutter moment, wasn't it?
Chewie,
your heart just flutters and you're like,
yeah,
right.
That was so great.
Oh man.
Well, and go ahead.
I wanted to ask you too. Did you guys notice too that the box that the lightsaber was in the basement was the same box that the lightsaber was in Ben Kenobi's hut?
No.
You did not know that?
No.
I didn't notice that though, Jules, until I recently bought A New Hope on iTunes just to have it and watched it. And I went, my God, that's the same box that was in Force Awakens.
Oh, man. Now I have to watch both of those movies again.
Yeah.
Mind blown. There were a bunch of like little things all kind of sprinkled in that movie that were just like little gems of everything. It was just kind of so cool. And they didn't pay any attention to it in the movie at all. They paid zero attention to it. It was great. It was perfect.
And I love it. I have to agree with Mick too. Just the C-3PO coming out was such a perfect moment. And from a storytelling standpoint, just the fact that he came right in, it's almost like you never left off. Like it's almost like C-3PO's been with you this whole time and he was just on vacation somewhere and there he is right back. Oh, hello, it's my, whatever. I don't think you recognize me. I have a red arm. That's why.
Right,
or whatever. Just, oh man.
Right.
I mean, it was perfect. It was so good. That was, Anyway.
Right. I gotcha. Let's maybe talk a little bit about characters and stuff like that because we're kind of going that way, it seems. And let's talk a little bit about Rey because she seems to be the big question mark in the room. Nobody knows exactly what Rey was doing on Jakku in the first place other than she was left there. So do you guys have any, I'm just going to leave this open. Who has a story about Rey? Some backstory, where did she come from in your mind? Anyone?
Everybody has so many theories about this. Is the big question, right?
Yeah. What's yours though?
Oh, I don't know. See, okay. She's not a Skywalker. She's not. She's not Luke's. There's no feasible way in my brain that I can make that work. It doesn't make any sense to me for so many different reasons that I can't really, and we can talk about them later as what I want to do is I want someone that thinks she's Luke's daughter is to set the reasons up and then I'll just knock them down. I don't know. But I mean, it's just, I don't know.
It does seem to be the most obvious, most boring, whatever choice would be.
It's the most uninteresting choice to me.
Yeah. And
I would honestly, and this is, like I said, I'm being really, really dorky and particular about this because, my job, I work in theater, I work in film and as an actor. And so I really, really, really hone in on these sorts of things. But just from a storytelling standpoint, as a choice, it's a weak choice. It's an obvious choice. It's something and this is something I don't even know if you realize when Kaz is talking to her when the lightsaber is calling to her for the first time. And she says that the people you're waiting on, you already know this, they're not coming back. And she's starting to cry. And she goes, but there's one that could. And if you listen really close and you pay attention, I saw this on my second viewing, she gasps, Luke. Rey does.
Yeah.
Rey says Luke. And I didn't notice that the first time I saw it. I was talking to other people that hadn't noticed it at all after seeing it 2 or 3 times. But absolutely. And so it's almost like they're throwing that at you. Like, oh, she's got to be Luke's daughter. She's got to be Luke's daughter. It makes sense. Luke's lightsaber is calling out to her. That's the Skywalker lightsaber. But it just doesn't. I feel like there are more interesting choices. Now, the original question is what my favorite theory, because a lot of them are feasible. I mean, her being Luke's daughter is feasible, I guess. But like I said, that would be the most disappointing one to me. But if I had to choose, I think she's of some sort of Sith line.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. That's the most interesting choice to me. That we had the good guy turn bad in Vader, right? And eventually, balance that out by getting rid of the Emperor or whatever.
Right.
But to have someone that in their blood, or in their veins, runs the blood of a Sith, but because whatever circumstances happened that landed her on Jakku, and she had to learn to fend for herself, and she learned the right and wrong and wasn't trained as a Sith, but has that sort of, force with her. I think that's what it is. I don't know if it's a Palpatine line. Some people have said that maybe it's Dark Plagueis. Some people said that the identity of Snoke might be Plagueis, who in the lore was Palpatine's master. So I don't know. But that's what I feel, especially when you watch her fight. When she's fighting, she's not zenning out, and she's not using the Force to control her actions. She's fighting it.
That's not true. She's not. She fights it in the beginning, but at the end of that battle between her and Ren is when she zeroes in and doesn't give in to her anger, and she goes to that kind of Jedi calm to finish that fight. That's when she actually gets the upper hand on him.
See, and I don't know, because when I see her get the upper hand, she's doing that fighting and she's losing, and she gets there and she kind of zens out. But then she looks at him, and the face that she makes is so terrifying to me, because she makes this face where she's just like, she's gathering the Force or whatever, using her calm as she's fighting, and she looks at him like, she just gets this rage over her face. Maybe it's not rage or anger, maybe it's just perseverance.
I think it's determination. But if you go back and watch, Empire, and you watch that the longest lightsaber battle ever, which is the one between Luke and Vader.
Right.
Luke does the exact same thing she does, and a lot of that fight is not beat for beat, because Vader kind of always has the upper hand in a very dominant way. But she does a lot of things that Luke does from that fight in her fight with Kylo.
That's true. And there's definitely some ties there, but I don't know. Anyway,
I don't say that to argue your point that she's Luke's daughter. I say that to think. I think that what they were doing with her is the same classic thing they did with Luke, which was the demonstration that the process of becoming a Jedi. By the way, I'm just going to stop for a second. This is the nerdiest effing conversation I've ever had.
It really
but
is.
I'm going to continue anyway.
That's the point of it.
That's fine.
The process of her, of any Jedi that we've seen go from, we've seen two different Jedis throughout the course of the storytelling of this franchise go from like Padawan to Master, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen two of those stories. The one was Luke's story, which was a story about trying to kind of figure out if he was going to go light or dark, and ultimately picking light. And then, of course, Vader, Anakin going from in the same process and ultimately, picking the dark side. And I think this is the same story that we're going to see with her. It's just whether or not we as an audience believe in any way, shape, or form that Rey could ever be corrupted. And to the point where there would be any drama in our minds about which way she's going to go. And that's, I think, the challenge that, Rian Johnson has and Trevorrow has for episode 9 is to figure out if that story is going to be different or somewhat the same, and how do they make that dramatic for us and not disappoint us at the same time.
Right. But it is kind of interesting, Brad, that you say Sith, because then I'm like going, okay, somebody who doesn't know that they're from a Sith line with an ex-stormtrooper kind of locked at the hip with this, with these people are just kind of in step with each other. And isn't that kind of an interesting choice?
Well, and it is. I mean,
I think that's kind of
cool. Here's the clues that I have. The big clues that I have for me is she, who knows who she is? There's only 2 people in the movie that know who she is, or that seem to at least say they know who she is. One is Kylo Ren. The other is Snoke. Because they say there was a girl with him. What girl? And he freaks out. Yeah. He knows who she is. Snoke,
or maybe he just is. He's a misogynist. I have no idea.
Snoke
he's actually.
But at the same time, when he captures her, when Kylo Ren captures Rey, he looks at her, and I think it's his first line. So you're the girl I've heard so much about. Mm-hmm. Why does he know about her, but Han and Leia don't?
Well, I don't know that we don't know that
there's no
Leia
evidence that Luke does. But then, yeah, and I've heard the point that there is the line where Kaz looks to Han and says, "Who is that girl?" And then it cuts away and they never talk about it again. Mm-hmm. So they don't know what Han's answer is. Maybe he does and he was hiding it, keeping it. I don't know. But at least in the film, we have no evidence saying that anyone other than the dark side knows who she is, which leads me to believe that she's some sort of chosen one on the Sith side, and Kylo Ren is trying to become better than be the chosen one. He wants to be better than Vader. He wants to be the chosen one.
He wants to live up to Vader. I mean, I think that's
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. But anyway, I've talked a whole lot. I'd like to hear what you say. Sorry.
I'm just kidding. Mick, were you going to say something?
Well, I think we can't. I think all the points that Brad's making are all, they're all right. But I don't think we can overlook the fact that regardless of whether she's from Sith line and by the way, that's kind of a new paradigm for us as Star Wars fans, because that's a whole thing that was introduced in the 3 prequel disasters.
Right.
What we know is that the quote unquote dark hat Jedis are going to want to get the young new Jedi to go to the dark side. That's the pattern.
Yeah,
that we've seen. So whether or not she's known because she's the child of a Sith is a good reasoning, but it also could be they just want her because she's a new Jedi and they want the newest Jedi to come over. And I think that Kylo is concerned because I do believe that he feels ultimately always threatened by any challenge to him as you said, the next Vader. So, or the big head honcho Jedi that's going to be out there. And so I think he sees her as a threat to that as much as to the First Order and all that other stuff that's happening.
Sure. Jules, do you have thoughts on Rey?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
I am pretty sure that Rey is the granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah,
that's the other major theory, right?
Yeah, I think she's a Kenobi, and now it kind of explains a couple things here. We know her parents were taken somehow by someone, and she was abandoned. Now, whether that could be that they wanted to make sure she wouldn't survive, so the line wouldn't survive. They would, kill her parents or kidnap her parents or whatever it was. But with the lightsaber calling directly to her and her alone, it just seems like it connects too strongly to the Kenobi line. I don't think she's a Skywalker because I don't think that she would have, there would be this link between her and Luke that he wouldn't at least try to make sure that she was protected. As the last standing Jedi, as the one who walks away to make sure that the Force tries to come back into balance, I don't think that he would walk away from a child who could be the chosen one in that way. So I think she's a secret. I think they don't know who she is, but that there's rumors on the side of those in the dark side that there is a threat and there could be a threat because they have prescient powers. They know that there's stuff that's going to happen. They know that there should be some future there. So I think she's a Kenobi.
I like that.
Interesting. So then after this trilogy, then we'll do another flashback to episodes 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 or whatever it is. And that'll be Ben Kenobi. his story
more
after,
lazy storytelling. Yay.
His story after, and then they're going to try to shoehorn in more crap into there.
More stuff awesome? I don't care about. Yay!
Make another CGI.
I think they may have learned some lessons. That's all I'm going to say with 1, 2, and 3.
Pat,
maybe
what's your theory?
Yeah.
My theory is that she is Mace Windu's goddaughter's kid. That's it. That's it. That's it. No, well, actually, I've heard both of those thoughts on Rey and more, and I think that it's probably bound to be one of those. So I'm not going to offer anything new here. I think that the Kenobi thing sounds good. The Sith thing sounds really interesting to me, but I don't know if they would actually do that or not. I don't know.
And the whole, the everything about Star Wars is the Oh my gosh, the value getting saving the bad guy, right? It's all of the first the trilogy. Once Luke finds out, all of Return of the Jedi was Luke trying to save his dad. Like, nope, there's good in him. There's got to be good in him. There's good in everybody. Was the story that I always got from Star Wars. You are the most evil overlord in the galaxy, and there's good in you somewhere, right? And I feel like that is Kylo Ren. So I don't. That's kind of an argument against, Rey being from the dark side or Sith line. But if I was going to bank on one or two of those characters to have more redeeming qualities, I think the most potential for redemption would definitely be Ben Solo, because everyone hates him now. There's not a person on the planet.
They don't hate him as much as Christian. What's his name?
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen.
No. Well, and that's the thing. As far as acting goes, and people can argue with me all they want, I have a terminal degree in acting, so I know a little bit about it. I think he did a great job. I liked him. I think he was exactly what he needed. Hayden Christensen, on the other hand,
no.
Bag of garbage. Bag.
Hayden Christensen, in my opinion, is the sole reason the prequels failed.
I think there were many reasons.
I think they would have been fine with just Jar Jar if we saw him in episode 1 and then didn't see him again except for 2 or 3 more scenes. They would have been fine if they had a decent actor playing the lead, the guy we wanted to see.
You're actually making a good point, because you've got 2 characters right there from the prequels and now from this new one where they're going to play a petulant brat.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them did. And you've got Kylo Ren, who comes across as a petulant brat, but he, has that emo quality. Yeah. And the way that they wrote him, you gotta put it towards the writing too, because some of those lines in the prequels were barf worthy.
No.
It's just horrible.
You and McGregor made him work. Christensen, I'm looking at you.
It's the accent.
The accent was the only thing that saved him. But I don't know. I'm sure you guys laughed at this at the moments where Kylo Ren would lose his temper and destroy things. Then it would literally be people like, is there anything else? Or is that moment where it's just, or the stormtroopers that turn tail and walk away.
I like that. They're like,
they pointed at how absurd that is. Like, that was great movie making, storytelling. I thought is they pointed not only it's over the top, and even watching the first time I was like, that's a little over, and then you see the joke with the stormtroopers walking in and going, nope, we're good.
Nope, this is happening. This is happening again, Steve. Let's get out of here.
They pointed to it, and it worked.
Yeah.
Well, it's in a way, though, they have to really work hard in this film to not make him Darth Vader. They have to really do something to separate him, or else, the film fails. Because, obviously the film's got enough, thematic through lines to New Hope that if that would just be one more. And I think, when you watch Vader and all the guys who played Vader, and then James Earl Jones voicing him, he never really lost his cool, even though he'd do terrible things to people who brought him bad news. And even in that film, that was the running joke, right? In those films, it's like somebody's going to go say something to Vader, and then he's going to choke him out and kill him. And, we would see bodies fall to the floor and all that kind of stuff in those films. And I think that they strove to create a Kylo Ren that was not Darth Vader. And the best way to do that is to do things like he throws tantrums when things don't go his way. He takes his helmet off in the first movie and talks to Rey face to face. These were all, I think, subtle touches. And either if they're the responsibility of Driver or the responsibility of Abrams, I don't know. But for those folks I think the problem with Kylo Ren is that the internet has colored him as a villain, as this kind of emo kid afterwards for the sake of, poops and giggles. And to me, I think we're underserving the villain of this franchise moving forward by doing that, because I think the performance by Driver is probably the best performance in the film next to Rey. Mm-hmm. And, I think that he has done such a good job with this, because in my opinion, he as an actor had the hardest job of anybody new coming into this franchise, because he was so going to be compared to Darth Vader walking on screen. We don't know what Rey is. We don't know what Finn is. And for the most part, they're coming into this free as birds. They can establish their legacy. But as soon as we saw a dude with a red lightsaber and a black helmet, we were like, that's the new Darth Vader. And so he had to work really hard to make this work. He has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And for the most part, he really makes this film work as a villain. And you may not like the fact that he comes across as a hipster because of the hair. But at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that Kylo Ren as a villain is pretty formidable throughout this film. And I think does a really good job of establishing what we know will be the big matchup in the second film, which will be him versus Rey at some point.
Well, arguably, I would say Kylo Ren is probably the most diversely fleshed out character of the entire film, because there's so many facets of him that you kind of learn as you go through. That scene when they're in the woods and he's been injured, shot by Chewie, hit by Finn, and he's punching his injury to get his rage out there to help him drive forward. There's all of these facets of his personality that are revealed to you as you go through. The moments where he's talking to Vader's crushed helmet. You have all of those things that make him, in my mind, one of the most kind of complex characters of the entire film so far.
Sure. And then you can also bring in, Finn, who doesn't know who he is at all. And, so there's like a serious contrast between those guys as well. You want to find out about Finn, but you really want to find out more about Kylo Ren and about Ben and about what drove him to the dark side and all this other kind of stuff. You want to find out like much, much more about this guy.
The child of Han and Leia turning to the dark side, like what the hell? Like,
right?
How bad was your childhood?
And saying, no, I want to do this. I am going to do this, but I feel the good inside me like trying to sway me.
He's actively battling the light.
That is cool.
Actively battling the light, and then that's in the scene, right? Can we jump to that?
Yeah. Jump to whatever you want. I don't care.
In the scene where he kills Han Solo, I'm gonna get emotional. I'm sorry, I can't help it. You see this, you see him battling it, and that's one of the reasons why I think Driver did such a great job. First of all, before he took his helmet off, I was terrified of him. When he freezes Poe Dameron's blaster shot in midair.
Man.
That was new Jedi magic.
Darth Vader never did that. Darth Vader caught it. He froze it in midair and left it there talking to people for 10 minutes. And then when he walks away, pew, it goes by and blows something up. Like, I was like, who is this wizard? Like, that was Jedi magic.
No, Jedi.
I've never, but I mean, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Something we'd never seen before. I was terrified of him.
Yeah.
The way he would speak, like what was so funny about Poe Dameron being like, so are you talking? Am I talking? Is he was so scary to me. And Poe Dameron was like, whatever, I got this.
Yeah, seriously. Which was one of the funniest things in the beginning of the movie, by the way.
That was what it just set the tempo of the movie. So great. Are you talking first? Do I talk first? How are we doing this?
Right.
It's so good. But anyway, and then you get to that moment. I have to do something, and I need your help. Anything, right? And you see it's light and dark. The light of the sun is fading, and all of a sudden it becomes dark. The light goes out. It's completely red, right, and dark and scary, and it takes over. You see him actively fighting it, and it's I don't understand why. It's crazy. I don't know. I want to know more too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the real thing is, I know that it took a lot of people by surprise when they went and saw that the first time around, and people have seen it many, many times following and going, here it comes, now I'm going to get ready for it. But that first time was, it seemed like they were, because, so Han grabbed his lightsaber, and they were both kind of holding it there forever. Forever.
What's going to happen?
And you're like, what? I mean, your mind just races it must have been like 20 seconds where they were just holding it.
The thing is, when did you guys know Han was going to die?
As soon as he walked on that platform.
As soon as he says Ben.
Right.
For me, it was when he goes, let's split up. I'll go this way, you go that way. And I'm like,
yeah,
that dude's going to die.
Sure, there's no way.
For me, it was...
Exactly. He says, Chewie, I'll meet you right back here. No, he won't. I knew,
No, you're not.
But I knew when he gets on the platform and says Ben. And so all that time, I don't know how long it is between that and it actually happening, but they have all that dialogue. And the whole time you're just like, just get it over with. We know what's going to happen. Just get it over with and make it not hurt.
Right.
Did you not have that diatribe in your head?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it's like, it's coming. Oh, they're not going to do this. They're going to. Yeah, they are. They're going to do this. No, they're not. Yes, they are. Like that's literally what was going through my head.
I'm so glad I didn't order the popcorn because I would have been sick. I would have been very sick all over the place. I think I was so sad. It was because the whole time you're just churning because you know what's happening.
For me, I thought that Han could probably die when he said, "Chewie, we're home." When he said that, I was like going, "Oh no, they are not going to like tug at heartstrings the entire time with Han, are they?" They're using Han as the emotional element. That's what they were doing. So just kind of breaking down a script, you look at that and you go, "Oh, here we go. This could be very interesting." And they actually kind of made Han Solo into Obi-Wan Kenobi in a lot of ways in 4 because he went from saying that it was a bunch of mumbo jumbo. As he was explaining it to Rey, he was like, "Oh, you mean all this mumbo jumbo? Yeah, it's all real." And in 4, he didn't believe any of it. He was like, whatever. The Force is, some craziness out there. But he was like, at that point, he was a believer. He understood the Force. He understood what it could do, and he'd seen a lot of crazy stuff. And so he kind of became Obi-Wan in a lot of ways, dying by the sword in 4. So that was kind of cool.
Sacrificing himself.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And now he will be at the side of his son in ghost form, right? Isn't that the way that it goes? He's going to be in ghost form.
I think you have to be a Jedi.
I'm sorry, but
I got to be a Force user.
Han didn't have any. He wasn't Force sensitive, man. Wish he was.
Yeah.
But also too, I think this is the only way they get Harrison Ford to do this film.
Sure.
Is if he's like, "I'm not doing 3 of these." And I think that was probably the only way they got him to do the film, to do it. And I think that it provides enough motivation. And then that moment, even though I think as adults, we all kind of go, we can kind of see it coming. But I think for kids, it's, for younger viewers, I think that's still, I've talked to a couple of kids that have seen the movie and I was like, what was the worst part? And they're like, everyone says when Han dies. And so I think that it's that same, moment of like when Luke gets his hand cut off and thrown down the tube, or lets himself go down to the tube. I think that's the same kind of tragic moment that some people will remember that are younger than us.
Yeah.
You know what was harder for me though? It was when Rey and Chewie are about to go out to find Luke in the Millennium Falcon and Rey sits in Han's seat.
Oh yeah.
That was harder.
Yeah.
For me because it was actually over. Like you knew this is a change of command. She is now taking over the Millennium Falcon. It ripped my heart out because I'm happy for Rey. I absolutely love Rey. I think she's a fantastic character. I can't wait to see more of her. But it really hit me hard to see her sitting in Han's seat in the Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Or even before she got in there, and it was right after her fight with Kylo Ren, and it's just Chewie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never supposed to be just Chewie.
No.
But what hit me, I think the hardest, now that I'm thinking about it, is you watch Han die, you see his face, you see his son's face, he reaches up and touches his face and all that, and it hurts so much. And then they pan to Leia, who we know is Force sensitive and senses what just happened.
Yep.
As if she were there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it hurts.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
And that's one of my biggest kind of regrets is that Leia doesn't actually get to be present for it,
Oh yeah.
In the film. That to me is not a misstep, but it's just kind of one of those moments where I feel that there's a story opportunity that's kind of missed there. And granted, I have heard that, or I think Abrams said that they cut 45 minutes out of this film. So maybe
I want to see
something
those 45
closer to that.
minutes, by the way.
Oh yeah, that director's cut is coming.
Yeah.
What we'll get is the original version on Blu-ray and DVD, and then we'll get the director's cut.
They can sell it for $200, and I'd still buy it. Yeah,
That's right. Oh man, God, that's gonna be good when that comes out. I can't wait. Of course, we've got like over the next 5 years, we've got 5 different Star Wars movies coming out. So I mean, there's gonna be. It's kind of a cool time to be a Star Wars fan right now.
Yeah.
It's
Rogue One comes out next November. So
yeah. Yep.
Well, Disney's just doing it. Hopefully they don't misstep on any of these projects, because I think it could be easy. So far, Rebels has been really awesome, the TV series. The Clone Wars, I thought, was fantastic. Not the movie, but the TV series,
animated series, yeah.
The animated series, which is part of the canon, right? Mm-hmm. They included it's only the movies and the Clone Wars, that TV series, as far as before, whenever they closed the door on the canon. And now everything since then will be included in the canon. All the books, the comics, everything written. I can't remember. I think it's like August 24th, 2014 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But with so many projects they're taking on, side movies, new TV series, books, comics, I'm afraid that somewhere there's going to be a stinker that, throws a wrench in the cannon almost. You know what I mean? And but
I don't know if that's even avoidable. I mean, I know the rumor, not to go too far into the future,
sure.
Not stray away from this film, but Abrams has said that Rian Johnson's script is one of the best scripts he's read in a long time for the next film, the 8th film. So I think there's a lot of promise there. We haven't heard that much about Rogue One yet, which is directed by Gareth Edwards, who directed, Monsters and some movies that you may not have heard of, but some good films. And that's, with some writers there that you don't know, and a cast that is actually really strong. I mean, you've got Mads Mikkelsen in this film. You've got Felicity Jones. You've got Alan Tudyk. You got a really good project on paper there. I think that what I think Disney's doing a good job is, and if we all know that Marvel is the closest thing I think that we can compare to this. Mm-hmm. And there's been movies that have been okay that have come out of Marvel. I mean, some folks would argue that Avengers 2 is an okay movie, not a great movie. But yet there's been some really great projects as whole. So it's the thing that you're exactly saying. As long as we don't get just some atrocious, terrible film, I think the strength of the tone set by this first film is going to carry the next couple of movies. And they're going to have to deliver, of course. But I think that Abrams, pulled a lot of pressure off of a lot of this franchise with the work they did in this film.
Yeah, and actually, didn't JJ say that he regrets that he is not going to be directing 8 because he saw the script and he went, "Oh my God, I would so love to direct this. I would. This is my jam, man. This is what I want to do."
Yeah, and Daisy has said, she can't wait to get back into it. Boyega has said the same thing. And we haven't talked that much about, Finn as well as one of the new characters, but
right.
All these, I think it's one of the things too that this film did really great job of is transitioning us old timers into the new world of Star Wars, which is clearly Finn and Rey, and I guess a little bit of Poe Dameron. That guy
I need more Poe Dameron.
5 minutes. So I think that also was the success point because, as Jules said, Rey is awesome, and I think everyone thinks Rey is awesome, just like everyone thought Luke was awesome. So I think I think the film really did the most to succeed in establishing these new actors to move forward in a new generation of viewers, and of course, old generation of viewers.
Well, yeah, and they still bring swag and humor and this like some kind of deep thought behind everything that they do, and they still bring kind of this same flavor that we've been used to in the original series, right? I mean, it seems like they've got all of the ingredients that is necessary for a good Star Wars movie. I think the question that I'm seeing in the chat room right now is, what do you think about the next couple of movies? Because if this is a trilogy, do they have enough originality left in this to break into something new? Jules, what do you think about that?
I read one of the articles that you had put into the show notes was an argument against some of the backlash that people have had, which is that this was a redo of the episode 4, 5, and 6. And there was an interview with J.J. Abrams that said, we had to kind of run over the same road to get you back to where you are now with a new set of characters and a new future. And, you know, I had those moments where I was just like, oh, look, a desert planet. Oh, look, there's a droid.
Oh, look, a Death Star. Just a really big Death Star.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we had all of those things. Oh, look, they have to blow up the Death Star in order to win.
Exactly.
It was all of the same kind of formulaic things that they did in 4, and then they did again in 6. But I think they needed to do that because we had to get ourselves situated to the current situation of where we are in the Force. And guys, there are a ton of unanswered questions out there in terms of the backstory for what happened in the last, 30, 40 years. How, like for me, I'm dying to know how they have been recruiting these stormtroopers, brainwashing them, turning them into machines, not actually machines, but mindless people. And then all of a sudden there's Finn who literally becomes sentient. And everybody else is just kind of like, turn, aim, fire. And he's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, kind of on the battlefield, he just kind of snaps out and goes, wait, what? What's going on?
Where did that come from? How did that happen?
There's a bunch of backstory there, too, that's been coming out little by little, too, about there's supposed to be, I think there is a book that's coming out that details his training and the connection of the stormtrooper who wipes the blood on his helmet for the first time. Mm-hmm. And then the stormtrooper, I think that folks have actually figured out what his name is, with the electric baton. They have a relationship together. From going back from their days of training to become stormtroopers and I guess sanitation workers. So, I think that there's so many things you said that I think the fact that we have folks debating who Rey's daughter is still like 3 or 4 weeks after this film has been released is a really good sign that the investment is there. But I do want to point out, just to go back though, Jules, to the point you bring up about the rehash stuff. Mm-hmm. I'd like to just point out that every single film that is like this is a rehash of one story, which is the old hero's journey, the 12 stages of it, all that stuff. It's all the same story over and over again. It's how you color that story and how you execute that story that makes it impactful. And this film has enough emotional notes, enough fun, enough of the right beats to make it an exhilarating, fun experience. And that's what Star Wars was in the beginning. Star Wars was not a crying or teacup film. It was space and fun and space wizards and space swords. And I think that is what Star Wars is. And yes, there are some of the same stuff. There's a Death Star. You got to shoot the thing to make the Death Star go away. Mm-hmm. All that stuff is the same. But why was I so thoroughly enthralled that at the end of the film, I was ready to plunk down another $16 at the ArcLight here in Los Angeles to go see it again?
Right.
Yeah.
And, I get the argument, but to me, it's an argument of, I want to find something wrong with this film to complain because that's what nerds do. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I feel like if you walk away from this film and you weren't satisfied by the fun of it, I get that. And you can complain about that. But to complain that it's a rehash of it, they're all rehashes of one story. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, they all are, because it's the same. They hand Hollywood writers the same friggin' book. Here, it's the hero's journey, 12 stages. Read it and make every script fit it. They literally hand you that book.
Change the name, change the weapons.
Exactly, and that's all
change
you do.
The setting.
So it's always the same journey. It always is.
Right. And
Shakespeare's plays were rehashes of old stories. I mean, this is something that's been going on for millennia. But to counter the argument a little bit, I think they did an excellent job of setting up a new saga. I don't think it's going to be a trilogy. I think it's going to go on indefinitely. I think it's going to be a television series that just takes the form of movies and we only get a new episode every 2-3 years. Like, that's my kind of feeling about what they're doing and what Disney is setting up to do with Star Wars. I had a talk about with someone about I think they're going to break the third movie up into 2 movies like they did with Hunger Games, for example. Make a little bit extra money. I'm like, why would you not just make episode 10?
Yeah.
And
I mean, they don't have books to worry about. So,
Right.
There's no limit,
right.
Which is something that Lucas, I don't even think he realized what he did by starting with episode 4. Like, I think it was something that he's like, this is a good idea. And he had reasons behind it, but had no idea how far it would go, because now with it being episodic, it goes forever. It could go forever. And I think they're doing a great job setting it up. I think there are a lot of characters they introduced that that we have not heard the last from. For example, people might disagree with me, Captain Phasma has got to be back.
Oh, yeah, she has to.
There's no way
she's going to be coming back, and she's going to be gunning.
Having an actress like Gwendolyn Christie in a movie.
Right.
If you don't know who Gwendolyn Christie is, she's
Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones, and she's incredible. An incredible actress. Perfect for the concept of what I believe they're going for Phasma. And she has, I think, 10 words in the whole movie.
It's
There's
silly.
no way they're paying someone that's that big of a name.
Well, and that's that recognizable even with a helmet on, where you just
absolutely, yeah. There were people that didn't even know, and I've heard that voice before.
Right. I was like, why didn't she take her helmet off? At least get some screen time.
But then is the idea of who trained Finn? Was it her? And the thing that I thought about, why was she so quick to help them? If you're a soldier, a captain, an officer in an army, and someone's holding a gun to your head and says, take down the shield so we can blow up this planet, I feel like you say, pull the trigger. You don't take down the shields.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to say it's called the magic of expedient writing, which is the writer going, I've got about 30 minutes at best left in this film.
Right.
We got to make it happen somehow. But at the same time, I would love to see her maybe being some sort of sympathizer, or at least having there's got to be more to her story. Poe Dameron's another character that I thought was brilliant and needs a lot more. I feel like and I hate saying he's not a replacement for Han Solo, but he's going to bring that kind of humor, that kind of swagger to the new movies. And I think they have plenty of story to tell. And they were just getting us back into it. It's like going to a wine tasting, and after you've had some wine, then you need to cleanse your palate, right? Yeah. We had to cleanse our palate from the prequels, which I don't think are bad movies. They're not good movies.
I think other people might argue the case. But
and I know that there are a lot of people that would disagree. But regardless, we had to cleanse our palate from that. We need something. We need to refresh and go and start new. And this was a good way to jumpstart us into something new.
Well, and really, do you guys think, I mean, knowing that we have 5 movies over the next 5 years, and we have Rogue One, and we have kind of these other ideas out there, do you think that Star Wars would be foolish enough to end at 5 films in the next 5 years? Or do you think that this is going to go on like Marvel? What do you think, Mick?
This is something we actually talked about on Super Heroic when we covered the Star Wars film a couple episodes ago. And I think that in some ways we're really in new territory when it comes to these types of films and these types of franchise movie making. Marvel, well, in fairness, Harry Potter would probably be a really good example. Harry Potter kept everyone's interest for 8 films, the 8th film being the most financially successful of all of the films of Harry Potter's franchise when it closed. And now we're getting more Harry Potter, by the way, this year.
Right.
Or at least another story within that universe. More
Disney, yeah.
And so I think that film kind of set the premise that, and clearly people want to see more Harry Potter. If J.K. Rowling's always said, hey, there's going to be another book and there's going to be another movie, and fans are really excited about that. So I think that Harry Potter and Warner Brothers kind of proved that these stories can go on and can be good if you are incredibly intentional and you try and put the most value you can into creating them, and you find great source material and great stories to tell. You pair that with a talented director, you pair that with really good cast, and voila. In a lot of ways, Marvel copied that same modus operandi when they jumped over to start their film. We're going to get the best actors. They may not be the most well-known actors, but they're going to be great and talented actors. We're going to get really talented directors and writers, and we're going to let them craft these films, and we're going to make sure that the people that are involved in the top are passionate about Marvel stories. And I think that's exactly what Disney has done and that's what Kathleen Kennedy has done. I mean, really, in a lot of ways, the unsung hero in this film's success is the woman in charge of Star Wars now, the woman who's taken over for George Lucas, a woman who's produced films like E.T. And Goonies. I mean, come on. Kathleen Kennedy is responsible for some of the best childhood memories I have when it comes to movies. And she's there guiding this franchise along. And, one of the things she loves most of all, according to her, is I love the part where we're crafting the script, when we're writing the story, when we're putting the actors in place. And when you have people that understand that 90% of your work is done in the pre-production, then you know that you've got a pretty good recipe for success here. And I think that, yes, they can go on. The question, Pat, though, that we don't know the answer to, but I think has been proven already, as I said, with the Harry Potter franchise, is can audiences sustain and endure to stay interested in these films the more that these franchises are piled up, right?
Sure.
So it's like, I can stick with Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings for these short durations when they're kind of the biggest film around. But now we've got the Marvel films. We're going to have a DC cinematic universe that's really kind of kicking off in full gear this year. We're going to have, of course, this new Star Wars universe, more Harry Potter stuff. Yeah. So it's whether or not the audience as a whole feels that they have enough money to continue to shell these out. And I think when we start to see these franchises dip and don't perform as well economically as time goes on, that's when I think that the studios are going to shift gears and pull back on these long-term commitments for films that they have. But right now, we've got these films coming out until 2020, 2022. So it's going to be a long time before this train stops rolling.
Oh, yeah. And I kind of groove on that, man. And it's so cool because, like you were saying, we do have all these different franchises out, and we're going to have the Activision Blizzard stuff is starting to emerge, as well as we're seeing with Warcraft, and they're building off shows off of their properties and stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting to see these independent studios.
Yeah. Well, and that's to mention too that Legendary is trying to bring back the monster films as well, with more Godzilla movies, with Skull Island.
Right.
They're going to be going whole hog into the success they had a couple years ago with Godzilla. Yeah. And also too, there's been sequels greenlit for Mad Max, which had a very successful run this last year too. So there's just a lot of, I think, anticipated movies. I think folks, we're not in, I don't think, a golden age of Hollywood that's giving us the same type of gritty films that we saw in like the 70s and early 80s. But I think we're getting the best blockbusters that we've ever had consistently at this point.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready, man. That's it.
The thing about this, though, you talk about Harry Potter, you talk about... I don't think that there are any other franchises out there. Like, everything else has source material. Star Wars does not.
Exactly.
They're writing this as we move on. We're not dealing with books. We're not dealing with an author who has created. We're not dealing with 50 years of comic lore. We're dealing with the people who are writing these movies, creating the story going forward. It's unlimited. You can go anywhere you want to go, because that was what happened with Harry Potter. You got 8 movies out of it, but at some point the books ended.
Well, and the cool thing is that they have so many different types of characters and types of, different aliens and alien worlds in Star Wars, that they can really just say, hey, let's choose this guy over here and let's just follow him for a movie. What do you say? And they can do that. They can get away with it, and they can say, it's a Star Wars movie, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be getting a Han Solo prequel, which is odd, but that's going to happen. They're casting Han Solo right now.
Yeah, the last movie they have on the docket right now is a Boba Fett prequel. Like they're going to.
That was actually one of the first tangent properties to actually be mentioned, was the Boba Fett project, and that got all the way to the end. Cool. But also too, to play into Jules' point about this all kind of being original material, which is great. And by the way, for those of you who haven't picked up a Marvel Star Wars comic, the ones that are out now, do yourself a favor. If you like Star Wars, you need a little bit of edge to scratch your itch, pick those up. They're great. But this is all new stuff that we're getting in terms of story. But the great thing is there's one person who's out of the way. And I love him to death because he changed filmmaking and he gave us Star Wars in the first place. But George Lucas is no longer the stopgap for whether or not one of these films gets made. And that's a good thing, too. Because, he was, I don't know really what I want to do and if I want to do this anymore.
That's not a bad George.
Really meet at me when I do these films. And, for people forget that I, made their childhood better. But, whatever. I have a pile of money that I sit on. Would you like to see my gold-plated Lamborghini?
Right. Let's make the explosions on all the different things different.
He's arguably the most influential person in our lifetimes. Like, he's changed so much about everything. Anyway, keep going.
Right.
But he's out of the way in a sense that we have to. George has got to be the one that makes this happen. And if George does it, it's not going to happen. And now that he's out of the way, they can continue to keep bringing in talented people to continue to reiterate on the story. And they're already on that journey. So, I think the future is in good shape for the next 3 or 4 years.
For the next several moments, anyway. So let's get back to this particular movie. Let's get back to The Force Awakens. And let's kind of wrap this up. I mean, we've been talking for about an hour. We could probably talk for about 10 more hours on any individual little piece of this movie. But let's talk about overall, how would you rate this movie as a standalone? As a standalone movie, how would you rate it? And then how would you rate it in the trilogy, of course? Where does this rank within the 7 movies that are created of the Star Wars series?
What's our rating scale? Are we doing 5 stars?
You can rate it however you want to. Something out of something. How about that?
Be creative, Mick.
You can be creative if you want.
Great. Am I starting? Am I the one going first?
No, let's go to Brad first. Brad, what do you think about this film?
Okay, so as a standalone film, assuming that I'm watching it without taking into any consideration the other movies, and 8.5 out of 10, I think. Because it did have some kind of weird. I'll give it a 9. I'm going to give it a 9.
Oh,
not
boy.
perfect, but really, really good. I mean, and I can't take the other movies out of it because a lot of the factor of what made this such an awesome movie is the nostalgia.
And that's tough. That's
and the
tough
fact
part,
that I need this story to continue. Like, if they, as long as I'm expecting more Star Wars to come out, I need it. I was okay with there not being any more Star Wars after the prequels were done, because I didn't think there was going to be.
Everybody was like,
Lucas
can we
said
please
there
kill
wasn't
this?
going to be. He's like, I'm done. Let's be done.
Right.
But now that I know there's going to be more, I need more. And there's this, so I don't know. I give it a 9, but in comparison to the other movies,
yeah. What is your order like, and where would you put 7?
I can't rank it. I don't know.
You can't rank it?
It's so hard for me. I know.
You
well, no,
coward.
I've not really thought about this.
Well,
you can do it.
How about
it's
you?
not the best one. Empire's still the best.
See, there you go. You're already starting to rank. Why don't we come back to you? We'll come back to you in just a moment.
I got it. It's 3.
You got it?
It's 3.
It's 3?
It goes Empire, New Hope, and then this one, and then Jedi.
Okay. All right. Jules, how about you?
Okay, so out of 12 parsecs, I'd give it as a standalone film. It would be a 9.
Okay. All right.
Just because there are some things in there that were feeling a little clunky. Just a little clunky.
Sure.
And I was a little annoyed by, there was just certain points where you're just like, why is this here? It doesn't feel like it's going to fit. And it's probably the editing. It's probably the things that they had to cut. Really looking forward to the director's cut in that respect. In terms of ranking, I would put it actually Empire first, this one second. And then I would actually do New Hope and then Jedi. So it would be number 2 for me. But Empire.
New Hope.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. New Hope, to me, I love New Hope. Don't get me wrong. But it was so rough in certain points that I found that it was just like, oh, like I'll watch that film.
It's a slow movie. New Hope is slow.
Really
if
is.
you go back and watch it again, and you're like, my gosh, they don't get on the Millennium Falcon until about an hour into that thing.
But it came out in 1977. I mean, what do you expect?
I know. Back then, it was like, hey, just roll the camera on that guy's face for an hour, and then we're going to figure it out later.
77
Even the final battle. My gosh, the final battle was so long.
I forgot how long it is. It's like 30 minutes long.
It
is.
It's really
77 long. Was before they invented ADHD, so.
Yeah. or quote unquote the jump cut.
Yeah,
right. Mick, how about you? Where would this movie rank individually, and then as a part of the series?
I think as a film individual, I give it 8 out of 10 X-Wing fighters. It to me is I have seen there's people in our chat room going 6 out of 10 for the logic flaws. I'm sorry, logic flaws. We're dealing with space wizards. At that point, there's no logic. There's no logic.
I feel like I could easily justify any logic flaw someone throws at me.
I get it. J.J. Abrams has no concept of time and space. No idea how it works. Doesn't know how things work in relationship to distance.
Throwing a lens flare.
Yeah, he doesn't get those things. I get it. But from how the movie made me feel, my enjoyment, 8 out of 10, pretty easy for me. Where it ranks in terms of the Star Wars films, I agree, Empire's number 1. I would say I would still give A New Hope number 2 slot with this film right behind A New Hope, and then Jedi, and then a reverse order for the prequels from Sith, Clone Wars, and then that just absolute disaster, which is Phantom Menace. That even shouldn't be even a movie.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of where I would rank it. It's definitely up there in the top 3.
Yeah. I would probably also give it 8 out of 10 Wilhelm screams. Because those are the best. And ranking them is tough. I thought that this one, more than any other movie, felt like a first movie in a series. You know what I mean? Like we knew that 1, 2, and 3 were going to be a series, but it still kind of felt like, well, if it ended here, what would actually happen? Well, okay, maybe that would be, but this one really felt like we are setting you up. We are setting you up really hard for the next movie and for the next movie after that.
Not only did they set it up, but they connected it to the old universe, something that we hadn't even seen anything new from in 20 years.
Right. Right. And then,
which is incredible.
And then let's see. Okay. So everybody's going with Empire first, and I can't disagree. Mm-hmm. I think 4, 5, and 6 are 1, 2, and 3 for me. So I would have to go 4. So I think that, those 3 movies fall into the top 3 spots. I don't know exactly where they fall, but those are 1, 2, and 3 for me. I grew up on those. I can't help it.
No, you're wrong. Ewoks are dumb. This is 3.
Ewoks are awesome, but let me just say that I'm talking original cut Jedi, not this stuff that they put out later. Not special edition? No, not special edition. They didn't have Yub Nub in there, and I'm sorry, that is the perfect way to go out. Instead, they have like these flutes, these wood flutes, and I just don't get it. I'm like,
that's crap.
Right, it was total crap. It was like, that was cool. Oh, by the way, speaking of music, just a little bit. What did you guys think of the music over at Maz's place? Was that just too spot on reggae, or was that like, I don't know.
That's like my least favorite part of the movie.
Right,
is all of that stuff at Maz Kanata's Fortress. I like the Maz Kanata character, but everything that happens in that breath that we take when they get to her cantina, with even the scene with Rey in the basement, that was my least favorite stuff in the film as a whole. So the music is just kind of in that blender of, this is the bad point for me.
Well, it's like that cantina was just kind of like this throwaway thing where they go, all right,
it was fan service.
Yeah, this is total fan service. Let's just, totally just not try to even really create something awesome new.
Yeah.
Fan service in a way that kind of made you feel like, not fan service where you were like, oh, that's so cool.
Right.
I don't even know what I could say to have made it better. Like, how would they have been able to make it improved to not be feeling like you were like, oh, you really pandered to us?
Yeah, I think the hard part, Jules, I don't know if you disagree or agree, that really didn't feel like a sense of danger in that cantina, whereas in the cantina on Tatooine, it's like, this is where the most villainous, vile scum in the universe live. And it really felt that way. It was violent. It was dangerous. Luke almost gets killed in the middle of the discussion. Ben Kenobi cuts off somebody's arm. There's a lot of crap that happens. The most that happens at the bar in this particular movie, outside of the battle afterwards, is, Rey gets scared. And that's about it.
Rey gets scared. 2 guys tell other folks that she's there, and
the droid is there.
I gotta disagree, Mick.
Oh, look out! Look out! Go!
Disagree. I mean, I understand, and I absolutely get the points that you're saying, and they're valid points. But I felt personally, for me, I I enjoyed it. That's another hidden nostalgia thing by seeing, the Mandalorian symbol on her cantina and everything. I felt like it was a little Disney. Whoa, the cantina was a little Disney. But at the same time, it's because Maz was in control of it, right? Han walks in and everybody looks at him. Han Solo, and everyone looks around, and the first thing I thought was, oh, he made people mad in this. This is going to be a fight, right? And then she goes, what have you been doing? Where's my boyfriend? Right? And everybody's, oh, okay, this is fine. So there wasn't the same kind of danger as Mos Eisley, and I get that, but I don't know. It felt kind of like home, and I can't believe you didn't like the race sequence. Like, that was something that it was the only glimmer of her origin.
It's not my favorite sequence in when Luke has the dream in the swamp in Empire Strikes Back. That's one of my least favorite moments in that film, too.
I can see that, but I didn't feel like the race sequence was the same thing. I felt like it was giving us information that we needed. Where
I felt like she didn't need the nightmare. She didn't need any of that. I mean, I do agree. Yes, we need to see the Knights of Ren, perhaps, and all that stuff. I just we need
to see Luke doing whatever he's doing with R2D2. Right? We need to. I don't know. I just and we need to know that she's. But I guess I understand that. At just this the lightsaber calling to her is really all we needed there.
By the way,
but I don't know.
I would like to point out, just to go off on a minor tangent, never really talked about it all, but the Knights of Ren, if you see that frame again and see those 7 characters, one dude's got like a giant battle axe thing. I want to see where those guys are at, because it's not like they're gone. Right. I mean, when do those guys come back into play? Because those look like some badass dudes.
Well, and I think we're going to see, this first movie, again, it's all about creating that motivation for the next movie, for the next step in the story, for creating all those little hints of what's to come, and building on all these different blocks they kind of set up in this first movie. And I thought that they did a pretty damn good job. But again, to me, it felt like really a first movie in possibly a very long series, which I'm hopeful for, because I actually really liked it.
And can I say one thing? I know we're wrapping up, but I wanted to bring light to one thing, especially and I know we didn't talk about Finn at all.
I know. And
we
didn't talk about a lot.
He's a great, there's so much we could talk about. He's a great character and I love him. But I just wanted to bring, I teach a class on social change, theater for social change, and we have this idea called the Bechdel test. And what the Bechdel test is the fact that women, basically it states that women are underrepresented in movies, right? And this is the first Star Wars movie that not only passes the Bechdel test, which basically states that there is more than one woman in the movie, and that woman has dialogue with another woman, and that they're not talking about a male character, right? And so this is the first Star Wars movie that passes the Bechdel test, and not only that, is the character of Rey. I think they did such a good job at it was so refreshing to me and fun and just great to see Rey's interaction with Finn, where Finn being this soldier, right? I mean, yes, trained as a stormtrooper, but let's remember, stormtroopers have families too. But he's a soldier, and he's there in a sense to protect, right? That's kind of what soldiers do, even if he's on the bad side. And he sees these people accosting this woman, and he comes in to be the valiant knight to save the damsel in distress, and then she beats their asses, and then sees him and BB-8's going, "That's my master's jacket," and so she starts running after him and tackles him, and then he's trying to save her throughout that entire scene and grabbing her hand. She's like, right. "I can run without holding your hand," just that concept.
And then she grabs his hand at the end to save him. So,
and even though there's an argument that Leia was a princess that didn't really need to be rescued, she still did. They still had to come in and save her from the Death Star. There were lots of strong moments for Leia, but at the same time, Ren is truly a heroine that does not need to be rescued. As a matter of fact, is doing the rescuing. She saves Finn's life. I think it's a really great turn that they're taking, and I just have so much faith and trust that they're going to do a great job telling the rest of the story.
And don't forget that with Leia as well, she also said, she also kind of stayed away from the princess tag. She was she was General. No,
General.
it's General.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah, she's not Princess Leia. She's General Leia, and that's
They
the
don't
other
even
thing.
call her princess. The only reference they make is that the guy in the
General
very
Organa.
beginning says, "She'll always be royalty to me." You know,
Right.
That's
Right. And that's the only reference to it the whole time. Yeah. And the fact that she starts it. Where is the New Republic? Is the other thing. There's no New Republic in this movie. It's the Resistance, and they even make mention to, well, if all the Republic fighters were here, it might be a different story. The Republic fighters aren't there.
Right.
Leia is fighting a war to get her son back.
This is one of the problems with this movie, and I know that again, we could talk about this forever. But we have to cut it off somewhere. But
just need to do another
the political scene in this movie was set up somewhat, but never really clarified as to what is actually happening.
But is that what we need? Do we need that? Like, we don't.
Star
we don't
Wars
need
has
that,
always
do
been
we?
about space wizards and politics.
No,
think
it's
they're going
space
to-
wizards and blasters and spaceships, and that's it. I don't want trade route crap. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't care about the governmental systems of bleebity blobs.
There was there's always some sort of conflict, and right now the conflict isn't between two governments; it's between two factions.
Factions.
Right.
And these factions happen to be the New Order, or the First Order,
First Order.
and the Resistance. The Resistance to the First Order. There's no government involved in this.
Right.
And it's surprising to me. I wonder how the new Republic responds to the blowing up of an entire system.
Well, we will
or if
find
they
out.
don't.
We will find out in Star Wars Episode 8, Another Newer Hope. I don't know. Whatever it is, we'll be watching it, and we might even be talking to you about it. But for now, it's time for us to go. But before we go, let's kind of tell people where they might be able to find us. I know that this is a one-off show, so it's kind of difficult from time to time. So, Jules, where can people find you?
Best place to find me on Twitter at JulesRPG. And you can check out the shows that I do, which is Torrent and Think Tank on Sunday evenings. I Remembered It Better on Thursday evenings, and A Case of the Mondays with Pat on Mondays.
On Mondays. Look at that. And Mick, how about you, sir?
I do a lot of different podcasts, Stormcast, which is Heroes of the Storm podcast, and The Starting Tone, which is the World of Warcraft podcast, as well as co-hosts with Sharku and Pat, Convert to Raid. You can check those out on those particular websites, which all end in a .com. I also do a show called Super Heroic, which might jive if you enjoyed this episode. You can check that out. It's about TV shows that are TV shows and movies based on comic books. So if you like the Avengers stuff, if you like the new if you're excited about Batman versus Superman, that stuff, head on over to superheroicshow.com and subscribe on iTunes.
There we go. And Shark, how about you?
Just curious, real quick, Mick, one word answer. Ben Affleck is Batman.
Fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Fine.
Great. You
A
can
little
find
angry,
me,
but fine overall. Go ahead, Brad.
You can find me on CTR occasionally, and that's on Tuesday nights at 7 Pacific time. You can find me at Twitter at Sharku_CTR. You can find me streaming occasionally on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sharku_CTR.
Right. And my name is Pat Crane, and you can catch me on Convert to Raid and A Case of the Mondays with Jules. And you can find all of these fine folks. If you can't find us for some reason, you can go over to signalsmedia.com, where we have the All-Star Network over there, the Signals Media All-Star Network. And these are the Signals Media All-Star Heroes, so that's where we got the Smash from. For Smash Movie Geeks. Get it? It's kind of cool.
I get it. It's an acronym.
It's smashing.
That's oh boy. But you can find all of us over there at signalsmedia.com. And thank you guys so much for coming out. Thanks to our panel here, and thanks to our chat room as well that has been chiming in throughout. And thanks to you guys at home. And once again, we are going to be putting this in a bunch of different streams. So we hope that you enjoy this, and we will see you some other time, I'm sure. Goodbye, everybody.